Hi, I am excited to do this reading, especially after our conversation yesterday. And I have to start out with, I've drawn a couple of cards for this particular reading for you. And I don't often use this deck, but I felt like this was the right deck for you right now. It is the Dark Goddess Oracle card deck. And I will put all the information about this in the description. Dark goddesses, there's some misunderstanding on them. They're not evil. They are not out to bring about mayhem and villainy. They are here to show us our shadow side. They are here to aid us through that shadow side. They are here to show us what's lurking in the corners of our consciousness and shed a light on it for me. I drew two cards for you. The first one is a Haitian goddess. Her name is Guabancex, and I will send you photos of these. So Guabancex, her keyword is wrath, and I'm just going to read from the guidebook here. Ferocious winds blow, be warned, ways must change, loss is mourned. Neglect respect upon one's path and face the fury of her wrath. So that's the little poem that goes with it, and now I'll read the words. Dark goddess guidance. A storm is brewing in you, and you could very well be placed in its eye as chaos reigns around you, scattering all that you hold dear. This will change all that you know. Belief systems, relationships, and work ethics, to name a few. But do not be fearful, for Guabancex brings this message as a heads up and warns you not to cause trouble for the sake of it. For the Lady of the Winds can cause catastrophes of biblical proportions and demands appropriate respect, or people will face her wrath. Knowing what is coming will enable you to prepare and understand why you face such dire straits. It is all for the best. However, you will be supported by Guabancex if you stand strong and observe the activity that whirls in extreme ferocity around you. Then, once the storm is blown over, you will find it easy to float into the brand new world your soul has been craving. Dark goddess foresight. Someone is out to cause trouble. Your past is catching up with you. Stop antagonizing the situation. Don't deliberately arouse hostility. It will alienate you. Don't back down for fear of incurring someone's fury. Invite peace to cool your hot temper and watch your words. Guabancex revealed. The archetypal antagonist of Haitian origin, Guabancex dealt out hurricanes, earthquakes, and other such disasters of nature and enlisted the help of other gods to do so. However, she didn't release these storms willy-nilly. She just won't stand for neglect and disrespect. So I think that she's got some good wisdom for you. That's Guabancex. The other one is Kali. The poem for Kali is Destruction, Chaos, oh so near. Don't let change instill a fear. Stand strong and watch the old decay. A new dawn welcomes you. Hooray. Her guidance. Turmoil, upheaval, disorder, and confusion have been your companions for a while. So don't be alarmed when Kali the Destroyer enters your life, for she has appeared for good reason. Something is about to end for you. And as you look through the eyes of Kali, the illusory, self-centered view of your reality adjusts, for she brings death to the ego. Kali has orchestrated all that has been occurring for you lately and affirms that in order to bring something new, the old must be destroyed. Kali urges you to let go as you allow yourself to accept the end of certain situations or relationships. When you understand the cycle of life, of birth, death, and rebirth, the fear of change shall be no more. Change is simply a transition that is needed to escalate you further. As you allow Kali to safely escort you through any chaos and destruction, you can be assured that this ending is just a beginning. The foresight. Don't give up. Keep going. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Everything happens for a reason. Release the old so the new can enter in. Walk away from harsh energies. A new relationship is waiting in the wings. And remember that everything is divinely timed. Kali is the archetypal destroyer of Indian origin, and as an embodiment of time, Kali devours all things. She is irresistibly attractive to mortals and gods, and also represents the benevolence of a mother goddess. Kali's dark skin is symbolic of eternal darkness, which has the potential to both destroy and create. So as we start this reading with some of the guidance of Guabancex and Kali, let's look at your toes and see what's showing up for you right now. The toes are indicating where you are in your journey right now. Your right foot represents the things that are external, the way people experience you, the way you're showing up in the outside world, and the way that you relate in the outside world. Your left foot is what's internal, the way that you talk and think about yourself, your deepest thoughts, fears and emotions. It's your emotional self, and it is your connection with source. So when we first look here at your toes, one of the first things that I see is that you are very, very grounded, or you have the potential to be. If you are not grounded, then you are out of alignment with yourself. I see this through a few things. One is the solid groundedness of these first toes in your life path and your spirit path. There's a lot of the toe touching the ground. It is straightforward. You have a lot of fire in you. We'll see this in the chart as well. And you're headed forward. You will blaze a path. You are a survivor. You are going to move forward. And then with the flesh out here on the sides of your feet, this is also groundedness. So it's nice that you're grounded both here in your big toes and on the outside here. Do that and or stay grounded. And I recommend starting a groundedness practice so that it is becoming intentional. If you're not doing it already, I recommend doing a grounding exercise every day where you breathe in, and then as you breathe out, you come down through your body, down into your legs, your feet, your toes, all the way into the entire pads of your feet and toes, down into the center of the earth. As you inhale, pulling back up through that same way, up, out through your head, out to Father Sky, and back down through to Mother Earth, all crossing through your heart as you're taking that breath and thinking about the grounding in each one of these toes and in your feet. So let's talk about life path first. In your life path, inside you know what to do and where to go. You have hope. The uplift of this toe shows a hope. And because you have a lot of fire, it's a very yang energy, yang, Y-A-N-G. Sometimes in America we say yang. And so it is this very outward energy. And so how does that show up for you? In your relationships, are you an extrovert? In the way that you take action? If an opportunity is presented to you, do you take it? In protecting your people, your children particularly, but your people, how does this fiery life path toe show up for you? And then harnessing that fire, using the energy of the fire. That's the power of knowing where your toes are and understanding your chart, is so that you can use those energies to move you forward in your life. Now, when we look here, we've got a bit of a protrusion here. So in what areas of your life are you subjecting yourself? Are you subjugating your will for and to the will of others? I know that you have some fiery relationships. Do you sometimes, because you know that you're strong, keep quiet or not communicate your needs, wants, and desires, or what it looks like to love you, including yourself, because the fear of conflict is overriding that? So just sink into that. This first toe has some good messages for you, and it's beautiful that it is so aligned here. Now, when we look at the toenail here, this is actually where changes start. Time tracks in our toes. This is the most recent, and as we move closer to the foot, it is farther back in your life. And so we've got some callousing going on up here. When we see calluses, that indicates protecting oneself. You are protecting yourself, your lifestyle, and what you think your values are. So a question to ask this toe would be, what are my actual values? What do I value? And then take a moment to really sink into that. There's no shame in this. It's just, what are your highest values? Is it comfort? Is it your children? Is it learning? Is it productivity? What are your highest values? Now, my guess is, and knowing a little bit about your circumstance, you went to your children immediately. And that may be true. It may not be true. Look at the way that you parent your children. How are your values showing up in the way that you parent your children? A lot of times as mothers, we think that our children have to be our top value. And they are our top priority, to be sure. As a parent, that's just how it is. They are our top priority. But values and priorities are different. And so pay attention to, is it your value or is it your priority? And there's not a wrong or right answer. And when we have our one-on-one, we will discuss the values funnel, the decisions funnel, so that you'll have a clearer understanding of this. But what walls are you building up? I know that you feel threatened in your life. And have these calluses always been here, or are they something more recent? Because they're not showing up here on your spirit path toe. So let's just look, for contrast's sake, at this spirit path toe, which is also very grounded. But if we look at the angle of your toes here, this is straight. Here, if we were to lay a ruler against this is pointing a little bit to the past. All right, when our toes are to the future. I am so sorry. Your big toe is pointing to the past. When toes point towards the big toe, they're looking to the past. When they look towards the little toe, they're looking to the future. So this spirit path toe is looking to the past. So what in your spirit path belief system and philosophy did you find comfort and structure in the past that perhaps you're not feeling now? What can you pull from that? Why are you where you are now? What made that shift happen? Does that work for you? And if it does, what can you still pull in from the past to give you this stability and this groundedness and this feeling of belonging and faith in a higher power into your new spirit path, whatever that looks like? And the great news is you get to choose. You have felt spiritually connected in the past. I can see this both in this toe as well as in the large space that you have between your toes. So this is what I call the leadership toe. You are absolutely a leader. And on your chart, your natal chart, we'll look at that and we can see why you are such a leader. But here's a little hint. It's because your signature of your chart is fixed fire. So what that means is you are grounded, you can stay steady, you offer a sense of security to people around you, and your fire is about action. Fire is about that forward movingness. And so you are 100% a born leader, especially with your sun in Leo. And you have this large space that continues up here, which is the channel for intuition. And then I'm looking at this spirit path toe that doesn't have a lot of callousing on it, is slightly looking to the past and opening up this channel of intuition to an even higher degree. So I would recommend gently massaging these toes, although you could just simply journal about and ask questions. What are these toes telling you? Our toes are our first messengers. What is this toe sharing with you? Where are you headed in your spirit path? Where have you been? Like I can tell you from looking at your toes, you have been in a solid spiritual place with high faith and trust. and you're looking to that in the past. Now, we know from the cards that we drew that there is a lot of change happening. I know from the conversation that I had with you, there's a lot of change happening in your life, and that includes some spiritual path change. So take what works from the past and apply it to where you are now and into the future, without staying stuck or fixed, because that's the shadow side of fixed fire. The signature of your natal chart is that we can get fixed or we can get stuck and think that that's the only way, as opposed to pulling things in from the past and applying them to now. Listen to your intuition. Your intuition is very, very on point. We will also see this additionally in your chart. In fact, let's just go to your chart right now so I can tell you what I'm seeing. So you've got your sun in Leo. You've also got your Venus in Leo. And 10, this is the house of fame and reputation. This is the house of where you're moving towards in your life. And Leos are natural born leaders. They are extroverted, not exclusively, but they have this energy that is fiery and really radiates out and offers warmth. Fire can also burn. Fire is that double-edged or two sides of a coin, where it can offer warmth and it can also burn. And your midheaven here, this line, if you look at these bolder lines on your chart, this line points right here into Cancer. Cancer, the crab. Cancer rules the 4th house, which is about safe space, family. And so you absolutely have the ability in your sun sign in Leo and with your midheaven going to Cancer to create safe, warm spaces for people, yourself, your family, and others, because you are meant to be a leader in this lifetime. So we've got those things. And then your Venus also, even though it's in the 11th house, which is about community, which is about the greater humanity, as well as revolution and rebellion, you've got your Venus here. You are here to create revolutionary safe spaces that provide warmth for people. And here's some key words that are coming to you. You know what it feels like to not be seen. And that is an important thing for you, is to be seen. And so you can, with compassion, you can provide that to others because you know what it's like to not be seen. So really using this fiery energy here in your sun sign and your Venus sign in Leo, in your fame and reputation house, with the midheaven here at Cancer, which is about providing safe spaces. Okay, then we talked about your intuition. Please look at what you've got down here in intuition. Scorpio is a very intuitive house, or is a very intuitive sign, and you have your moon in Scorpio. Your moon is about your emotional needs. It is your non-negotiable needs. It is your heart. Okay, your moon is in Scorpio. You have a deep need for trust, for transformation, for deep work and relationships. And so when I see the moon in Scorpio here, and then knowing what you're going through in your life, in this lifetime, you have requested, you have set up a path for yourself of transformation. And as we looked at the cards, especially the Kali card, Kali is about destruction and rebirth. Now, as if that wasn't enough to have your Saturn, your Mars, and your moon all here in your 2nd house of values, which we already talked about that a little bit, and in the sign of Scorpio, very intuitive. You have Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio, sitting here in the 1st house of your identity. So with your 1st house, Pluto in the 1st house is an extraordinarily powerful placement. It indicates physical strength, leadership, which we talked about here in your toes, intensity, which we've already talked a little bit about, that can show up here in your Leo, but Scorpio is an incredibly intense sign as well, and a depth. And your ascendant, which is your rising sign, is in the very friendly sign of Libra. So you've got a soft edge to this intensity. Some people with Pluto in their first house can come across as being so intense, it can actually be brusque and a little bit brutal. You've got this beautiful, friendly Libra sign of balance, harmony, and beauty is your rising sign. And Pluto in your first house of identity is here to have you embrace your strength, your physical strength, your mental, emotional strength, your depth, your power, and your intuition. You also, because over here, this is your descendant, this is what you attract. You attract fiery people. And I know that you are currently in a relationship with a person who also has the sun sign of Leo, a fire sign. All right. So your descendant here in Aries is attracting fiery people into your life to help you do the transformation work that you are called here to do. Your Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer in Greek mythology. Any questions that you have about this? Because I know that I'm telling you a lot of information, and I am not as familiar with your familiarity level with astrology. So if this is going over your head, we can talk in depth about it when we have your session. If you already know all this stuff, we can go into more depth about what this means to you particularly. But right over here in your Chiron, which is in Gemini. Okay, Chiron, the wounded healer. Chiron healed other people because he knew what the wounds of abandonment, betrayal, and physical wounding from a friend felt like. So he became the great healer and the trainer of heroes. Your Chiron is here in Gemini. So you have deep fears around being incompetent, feeling stupid. That's a big trigger for you, to feel stupid. And your ability to think and communicate is highly impacted by this. Not actually the actualness of it, but your feelings around it, feeling like you don't communicate well, or like you to communicate too much or not enough, or that people don't understand you. And again, this deep fear of incompetence or feeling stupid. So those are what I consider to be the big four of astrology. Most people are going to talk about the big three. That's your sun in Leo, your moon in Scorpio, your rising in Libra. So some nice balance there with fire, water, and air. And then your Chiron is the fourth pillar, which is your wound. And from our wounds can become our greatest teachers, our greatest healers, and really show us what our destiny is. And it is in the 9th house of harmony and relationships, and in the 9th house of belief systems, spirituality, and philosophy. So I encourage you to explore what are your intellectual, higher learning, spiritual pursuits and desires, and go after them, knowing that what you know is enough for now, and forgiving yourself for what you didn't know before. That's what we're going to say right now about your chart. I would be curious to know what your language of affection is. Sometimes they're called love languages. I have recently converted to calling it the language of affection. And I would say that words of affirmation are very important to you. And I'd be curious to know where physical touch is on that scale. With Your Juno, she is one of the goddesses. She is the goddess of love and marriage, in very close to your sun here. So this indicates that it is highly important for you that you feel pride in your partner. If you don't feel pride in your partner, or you feel rejected, ignored, or taken for granted, that just won't work for you. So how has that shown up for you? And then with your Venus and Leo on top of it, so you've got a lot of Leo goddess energy. You've got Vesta the Virgin, which represents our younger years. You've got Juno, the wife, and you have Venus, which is our planet of attraction, relationships, and connection, and your sun, all here in the sign of Leo, which is about creativity, play. There's a highly sexual element to Leo, and Leo wants to be seen. And with your sun here, domicile in the sign of Leo, you do want to be seen. These first toes are an indicator of that. So if you feel insecurity around that at all, dig deep into that. What is that? Your moon here is creating a, moon here in Scorpio is deep, the deep, deep waters. Cancer is the first sign of water. Scorpio is the second sign. This is the deep sign. So sometimes Scorpio doesn't want to be seen. And with Pluto in your first house here, you might have some resistance to being seen for the absolute supernova that you are. So just explore that, especially as it pertains to your life path and your spirit path. Okay. One other thing that I'd like to explore on your chart here, and that is right here, you've got a lot of squares being set off in your Leo house also. So squares provide opportunities, challenges for us to rise to the occasion. And one of the questions that I have for you to explore is, do you experience feelings of guilt for taking up too much space? Is the fear of being so big and bright because you have fears around taking up too much space? So just explore that. All right, when we move here to our second toes, these are our communication and expression toes. Again, these toes, you can see the nails leaning just a little bit to the past. So the journaling question here is, when in the past have you felt like you could fully express and communicate? And why don't you feel that now? The toe itself tends to be straight, even bending slightly to the future. You can especially see that on the left foot, bending slightly into the future. The nails, however, are straight and leaning a little bit into the past. So same thing as with that first toe. What can you gather from the past, even though you're in a new place, a new time, a period of rebirth in your midlife? I would love to talk to you more about your midlife rebirth that is happening to you right now in this expression and looking to the past. So generally speaking, these communication expression toes are quite good. You do have some blocked energy. So massaging those toes gently so that you can express where you are. And again, with your Chiron in Gemini, you might feel some apprehension about expressing yourself. This would be a place to journal. Maybe write out what you want to say and then say it. How does communication show up for you? It is vital that you speak your truth, that you feel confident and creative in doing so, and that you put aside fears of what others may think, do, or say. Your action toes and your communication toes are highly connected to each other. So you are, like we talked about before, you are an action taker in your very core. You are an action taker. I'd like to talk for just a minute about this action toe and this communication toe and how they communicate and relate to each other. In your actions, what are some periods of time in your life when you have not taken action for yourself, when you've put yourself last, or when you've known that you are strong enough so you would do what somebody else wanted to do? You would follow someone else's agenda, but you did so with a little bit of resentment or pride that you knew you were strong enough that you could handle it. And that becomes an ego story. I'm strong enough that I can handle it. They're too weak to handle the fact that I don't want to do what they want to do. So just journal about that, and it's time to stop that. You have good ideas. You have the right to take up space in this world. I know that you've suffered from disordered eating, and it's been quite severe. This is a deep question. And with your deep moon in Scorpio, you can handle this question. You can handle what is coming up for you. Please allow yourself to feel it. But with some of that disordered eating about not taking up too much space or fear of taking up too much space. And do you fear that you're taking up too much space now? What if do you find yourself apologizing a lot? Simply, like, are you the person who, if you're going down the grocery store aisle and two people are coming together, you're the one that apologizes as if you need to apologize for taking up space in the grocery aisle? Or let's continue with this grocery store example. You're standing in front of something that somebody else wants to get into and you apologize. Why are you apologizing? Okay. There are other things that you can say that are more empowering. You don't need to apologize for taking up space, so stop doing that. That's what this toe is telling me. In your relationships, you are working on your relationship with self. Keep doing what you're doing in working on your relationship with self. I can see that you have released some energy in your relationship with self. Keep it up. Massage this toe, ask what's next, but keep it up. Okay, this is relating to, this toe here is really relating strongly to your life path toe here. So keep it up. Your relationships with others, if we look at the difference between this toe and this toe, your relationship with others can sometimes feel blocked, strained, and you're looking to the future, hoping that things get better. You got a lot of hope. And that's okay to look for the future and have that hope. Massage this toe. What relationships are causing blocked energy? Right? You're going to have 2 or 3 come straight to your mind, and I invite you to dig deeper. And this, because this has been ongoing. This is long before some of the relationships that you have now. This has been ongoing. What relationships stifle you? What relationships create feelings of stuckness? Explore those, journal about those, and release that blocked energy and show up as the supernova Leo sun girl that you are. Let's talk about these prosperity and trust toes. There's quite a bit of blocked energy in these toes, and they're both looking to the future. So if you look, your feet are largely symmetrical. If you look at other videos on this channel, you'll see that some people's feet are not symmetrical at all because their internal and their external worlds, there's a clear dividing line there. They're not aligned together. What you're seeing in the outside world is being reflected in your inside world and vice versa, because they are quite similar in the way that they look. So stay aligned in that and realize that everything outside of you is simply a mirror. This has to do with your Scorpio moon, the deep waters, the reflection. Everything that you are experiencing, every person, every situation that you have in your life is reflecting something in you. You could not see it if it wasn't in you. And if it triggers you in any way, that's an invitation to peel back that layer and do that inner work so that you can shine more and more and more. So I invite you to pick the top 5 things that are triggering you right now and ask yourself the question, how is that like me? And really do some deep work on that. And as you do that, you're going to see a shift in these relationship toes. You are also going to see a shift in these prosperity and trust toes. So prosperity and trust, those are deep things. So let's go back to Scorpio, which has to do with trust. And you've got Saturn in Scorpio. Saturn is a restrictor. Now, Saturn isn't here to restrict your trust. Saturn is here to show you a trellis, if you will, from which the plant of your trust can grow up. Saturn is here as a gift so that you're just not overflowing with trust for everyone. My guess is that you have also experienced things in some of your partnerships, betrayal. Betrayal is a strong word that's coming into my mind. And Saturn is here to say, look, that was here so that you could see where to trust, where to put your trust. And may I invite you to consider that there is indeed only one thing that you can trust in this world, and that is your higher power. That is Source. And your connection to Source will enable you to trust yourself deeply. We need to trust people outside. My example that I like to use of this is when we are in a car and we're driving, we are trusting everyone else on the road to obey the rules of the road so that we have safety. We take our lives and everybody around us' lives into our hands when we choose to drive a vehicle. So trust in those outside of us is a vital part of life. Those who never trust don't experience deep love and joy that they can in this life and live a life of constant vigilance, which is toxic. And Saturn is here as a gift in Scorpio saying, look, let's look at these examples. What did you learn about how you can and cannot trust, about who you can and cannot trust? And when we look at relationships, was this a mistake? People are always going to let us down. Is this a mistake or is this a pattern? All right. So explore that with this prosperity trust tone. And now let's talk about prosperity. All right. So there are several prosperous signs in your chart, and I want to show those to you. You've got Ceres, the goddess of abundance. In Greek mythology, Ceres was Demeter, the goddess of the harvest. And it is in the value-based and prosperous sign of Taurus. Abundance is your birthright. Then you've got Jupiter down here in Capricorn, as well as your part of fortune down here in Capricorn. Your part of fortune is where you will move to in order to bring about prosperity and your fortune in this life. Now, remember that prosperity is far more than money. Prosperity can be relationships of trust, a sense of security, knowing that you've got food that's coming in. That's the series over here in Taurus. So this is another journaling question. What does prosperity look like and feel like to you? It will come to you through achievement. It will come to you through structure. It will come to you through taking action, like the ram, like the goat in Capricorn. Okay, that is about that mountain goat climbing the mountain. All right, taking action steps. And then you've got Jupiter over here also in the sign of Capricorn. Jupiter is the expander. Jupiter is the joy bringer. Jupiter is the planet of fortune. This is also right down here at the very bottommost point of your chart. And so this is where we have come from. You know this already, okay? You know this already, and stretching into that is going to be the purpose of this lifetime, stretching what you already know in structure, in achievement, into creating these safe spaces of brilliance where people can shine, including yourself. That's where your prosperity and fortune is going to come. Massage these little toes while you ask yourself questions like, who can I trust? What does trust look like for me? Do I trust myself? Trusting yourself is a birthright for you with this large intuition that you've got here and all the Scorpio energy of intuition. Massage these toes. I also invite you to close your eyes and just picture yourself, your energetic self, and just ask yourself, where does prosperity come into my being? And like a ribbon of light, where is it coming into your being? And just take note of that. And then follow that thread of light out from wherever it's coming into your body, and follow it out and see where it's going. Is it going to another person? Is it going to a business? Is it going to source? Where is that prosperity coming from? That's one of the changes that's coming to you, is where your prosperity comes from. And I invite you to just take notes of that, and then we can talk about it in your session. I'm really looking forward to talking to you soon. Thank you so much for trusting me to read your toes and your chart, and we'll see you soon.